Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. This is the Project Manager Clinic and I'm Suzanne Moore. And today we're just going to work through some common issues and questions that people have about project management and try and work on the best way of resolving them. And we do have a few people registered for this, so I give them a couple of minutes, but in the interim we'll just continue to talk and hopefully I'll catch up with those people as they come in. So if you're just popping in now, just say hello in the live chat, which is just down below. And if you've got any questions, please let me know in the live chat window and I will be able to answer them. If I can't answer them, then potentially we can throw it out to whoever is on the channel, on the live stream. Project management's pretty interesting sort of a discipline, but one of the reasons I started the PM clinic is because the same issues seem to come up again and again with people wondering how to do things instead of going to their technique and starting to apply it. So in the interim, I'll just start with one of the most common questions that people ask, which is about stakeholder management. And stakeholder management is a complex situation. It's not easy. It's not always easy for any of us, even experienced program managers. How do you get better buy-in on the issue? And there's so much written about this that potentially we've overcomplicated it. Now, I tend to use the dimensions out of the PMBOK from PMI, and I've been doing that for a very long time now. And I find that stakeholder management fits very neatly into one of those dimensions, of course. But it's really, I think, goes hand in hand with communications management, which was amazingly a latter a latter part of what was developed through that PMBOK, because I was actually on one of the international committees quite some time ago talking about communications management, which at the time was not a big thing for project managers. So how do you get better buy-in on the issue? And what are the stages? If you're already started your project, what do you do? If you're just about to start your project, well, of course, it's going to be a lot easier for you because you'll do all of your stakeholder management exercises, workshops up front. You'll understand who your stakeholders are, and you'll do a risk assessment. You'll probably do your comms management plan. And then from there, you can work through your stakeholder management, and it usually works okay if you communicate well. If you're partway through your project or your stakeholder changes or your sponsor changes, or you've had to take over a project from somebody else, stakeholder management can become more complex. So I would say one of the solutions is to revisit your stakeholder plan. Go back out to all of your stakeholders, work out if they are actually the right people at the right time, because things do change, particularly on the longer projects, the business transformation programs. These go for a couple of years normally, and things do change. So go back. I would go back out and have another workshop or a couple of workshops. Talk to your sponsor first and just say that you want to do a refresher. And the refresher can also include things like understanding the deliverables, complexity, developing a RACI, but basically just go back to square one, look at your project management plan, look at who the stakeholders are or were, and then determine whether these are the right people to still be the stakeholders. They may not be. Getting buy-in is something that's complex once you've identified the stakeholders and this is where it links into your comms plan really, really closely. You have to understand how those stakeholders should be communicated to. For example, I normally do my status reports on a number of levels. I do a fairly simple summary status report that can go out to the whole organisation if required. But I then do a summary or a presentation report that I give to executives, because they desire different information and they like to have it more condensed, and they like more detail is different. What are the risks? What are the costs? Where are the breakpoints? Where are we currently having problems? What risks do I foresee along the way? So I would say go back, talk to your sponsor first, and then do another assessment of the stakeholders, and then work out if they are getting the information that they want to get, in the way that they want to get it, in the frequency that they want to get that information. Because sometimes people are just bombarded with information and they just don't have time to read your information. So you're not going to get the buy-in that you need. It's a bit of a marketing exercise to understand what information you need to give people right up front, so that they look at your information and they can make an assessment in the first 3 seconds. Because after the first 3 seconds, if they're not interested, you've not grabbed them, they will just let it go. So you need to understand how your stakeholders need the information, and sometimes this is different for different levels of stakeholder. If it's somebody that's not very technical but they are key users, they need different information, and they may want the information more often. They may want to have face-to-face. They may want workshops facilitated. They may want a newsletter. There's a whole raft of ways that we can get buy-in from our stakeholders if we really understand who they are, what information they need, and how frequently they need the information. So I had another question recently about schedule management, and this is an age-old problem, sadly, that people continue to have problems with their schedules. And I think it sometimes goes back to an issue where people don't plan properly in the first place. So planning is a really important aspect of project management, I think, and one that is the most important, to understand what you're going to deliver and what it looks like when it's delivered. So it's not just about outlining the deliverables. You have to work out what those deliverables are going to look like when they're delivered, and what's the journey of each deliverable along the way. And that's what needs to go into your schedule. So if you're way off your schedule, look, you can look at earned value analysis, you can look at the critical chain, you can do all of those technical things, but you might actually find that the thing that's going to help you the most is the soft skills around communication and actually talking to people about why you're not delivering. It may be that you have not got the right resources on your project. It may be that not only have you got the wrong resources, you don't have enough resources. You may have the wrong deliverables recorded in your schedule. You may have completely the wrong timeframes. These are all things that you can go back and have a look at. And you can work through a lot of these issues. But the thing that I find that most project managers continue to do is be quiet. So they say nothing, even though they know they're off schedule. And the very worst thing that you can do is stay quiet and not report accurately in your status reports, because no executive wants to have a big surprise at the end of the day where you're saying, well, I'm not going to meet those timeframes. So if you're way off your schedule, work out why you're way off your schedule. You may have to go to your sponsor and to your key stakeholders and say, look, unfortunately, we need to recast the schedule. We need to have a break. We need to work back through things. These are, look, they're difficult, but the selling point is you want to have a robust schedule that you can meet, that you and your team can meet, and the organisation can also meet. So if it means that you take a week or 2 weeks to go back and look at the schedule without being pressured, then that is probably a much better option to do. And when I say recast the schedule, I don't mean get straight into the detail of the schedule and start moving things around in isolation. That is a really, really bad thing to do, because the thing that you really need to do is to talk to people. Get a really good understanding of what the deliverables mean. Are there tasks within those deliverables? Are those deliverables actually projects? Are they an activity? There's a bit of a difference to my mind around some of these things. When I do a business transformation roadmap, I have programs under the portfolio, I have projects, I have within projects, I have activities, and within activities or within the projects, I have tasks. So sometimes an activity is things where you're consistently doing something. There's an activity like a weekly or a fortnightly newsletter, or some other activity that inputs into a project, not necessarily a project under your management, but it's an activity that is required for your project to be successful. So go back to your schedule and have a look and see, are these deliverables, or the way that you've chunked your schedule, are they actually reasonable? Are the chunks reasonable? Are these things projects? Are they activities? Have they got nothing to do with you at all? Because you would be surprised how many times people have got things in their schedules and they have got nothing to do with the project at hand that they're managing. They've literally filled out their project schedule with a whole bunch of irrelevant tasks. It looks good on paper to them, but in actual fact, it doesn't look real good to an executive or to a sponsor, because it starts to become gobbledygook. Don't understand the deliverable, you can't have it in your schedule, because you won't understand the components that make up that deliverable. And then you also won't understand how to communicate the success or otherwise of that deliverable to your stakeholder. So getting buy-in, again, we're going back to that same stakeholder management and the communications, is understanding the deliverable, really understanding it so that you can repeat it in a paragraph and also say what the deliverable looks like when it's finished. So if you're going to deliver a purple house with a black roof, then you need to say, I'm going to deliver a purple house with a black roof, but when it's finished, the black roof is going to be matte black, and the walls on the outside are going to be gloss purple, and it's going to be this colour, and it's going to be that colour, and it's going to be this wide, and it's going to be in this position. You have to be that definitive. Okay, now this question is from someone that I used to work with, so I won't mention their name, but it's a very common one as well. On the larger projects, when you have contractors, and particularly on the construction projects, when those contractors don't live up to their side of the bargain, it can be very difficult and can slow you down. So how do you address those sorts of things? Well, often this goes back to scope management, and people, again, in my experience, start to put their technical project manager hat on and go immediately to a procurement plan or deliverables plan or to their sponsor or whatever it is. What I tend to do if the contractors are slow to complete the agreed work, and they continue to be slow to complete the agreed work, is I go back to the contract. So basically right to the start and go through the contract with them and say, now this is actually what you are meant to deliver. Let's get a common understanding of what, again, those deliverables are and in what time frame you are supposed to deliver them. In my experience, what seems to happen is that the deliverables have changed. They may have disappeared completely, or they may have changed slightly. The clients ask for something slightly different, and nobody's actually managed through a change request or a contract variation to change that contracted deliverable. So the contractors oftentimes are just confused, or they're not motivated to deliver something that they don't understand or don't think they can deliver or don't want to deliver, quite frankly. If you have contractors that are just continually not performing, then you have to go again back to your contract and work through the performance management criteria or the service level agreements that you may have. And it's not easy, but you need to do that because it's fairer for all parties to discuss what was in the contract and what is expected at different points of the project. So when contractors are slow to complete the agreed work, it's often because you're partway through the project. Other factors have exacerbated issues potentially affecting their delivery. If you don't speak to them, you have no idea why they're not actually delivering. Excuse me. And you really need to, because these people are part of your project. If you can't get them to be successful, you're not going to be successful. So go back to the table, get the contract out, get the performance levels, the service level agreements out, get the deliverables back out, and work through what they actually think they're delivering and work out if that is actually correct. I think this project's too big for the size of my organisation. And if you go to one of my other videos on my channel, where I'm talking to Elizabeth about is it me or is it them? This is part of that issue. Is it me? Am I the problem of this project? Am I incapable of managing this size of project? Is it just me? Are my project skills less than what they should be? Or is it the organisation? And when I say that, I'm not talking necessarily about the structural issues that Elizabeth and I talked about in that particular YouTube video. I'm talking more about the capacity and the capability of the organisation to actually deliver the project. And this does happen, particularly with software development projects, where you often find that an executive has come from somewhere, they've got this great idea about something that they've implemented elsewhere, and it all worked fantastically in their previous role, and they want to implement it in your organisation. But in fact, your organisation is either not ready to implement it, or they're not capable of implementing it, or it's actually not the right project for them. May not be the right software, may not be the right strategy. It could be a whole raft of things, right? So if you think that the project is too big or complex for your organisation, what are you going to do? It's a hard one. Because you can't just go and say, I think it's too big and too complex for your organisation, sponsor, because chances are they're not going to like that. They're going to be a little bit insulted, particularly if they're the person that's brought the project to life. So again, you have to go back and work out and have a look at some complexity matrix and see where is the complexity. Where do you think, as the project manager and your team, where do you think this is beyond the organisation? And it may be beyond the organisation at this particular point in time. It may not be because the organisation is not capable. It just may be because resources are not available at this time. I worked with an organisation many, many years ago, and we had there was quite a massive portfolio of software development projects going at the same time that I was managing, and where the bottleneck occurred, which is often where the bottleneck occurs, was in the testing and the platform that allowed us to test prior to production. The organisation just did not have the capacity to load up the required amount of test applications and the integration testing that was required for the planned portfolio of work. So instead of me saying, you're just not going to be able to do this, you've got too much planned, we as a program team had to sit down and work out a schedule and a solution for how they could deliver. And that was twofold. So the first thing was that we needed to, again, prioritise the projects, which is what I always do in my large-scale project plans. I have priority 1s, priority 2s, priority 3s, and priority 4 projects. Priority 4s are often future state. Priority 1s must go first, and sometimes a priority 1 project is not the biggest project in the world. It is just the one that has to go first. So, for example, if you do not have enough cloud storage, or you do not have enough data storage, whatever it is, you don't have enough server space, you don't have enough testers, you don't have enough key users that can do the testing, then that's going to be the bottleneck. And it's really important to identify that bottleneck for your sponsor and your stakeholder, and then let them understand that the size of the portfolio or the train that they want to come through is just not going to fit through the tracks, not going to get to the station. Give them the information that they need to make the decision. I think that's one of the key things for project managers, and why a lot of project managers fail is because they think they have to do everything and solve every problem. You don't have to, but you do have to understand what your project looks like, feels like, smells like, how long it's going to take. You need to intimately know your project and what your project team is capable of delivering, by what date, what the deliverables look like, before you can discuss things like it's looking like it's going to be too big for the size of the organisation. And we've all seen organisations that have implemented over-engineered solutions for their problems, which just amplify their problems down the track. Okay, so just another 3 minutes, and I don't have any additional questions from anyone. Just having a little look over here at LinkedIn, because we did have some people joining us from the LinkedIn group. Okay, so if you've liked this live chat, subscribe, give us a thumbs up down below, and stay tuned for the next episode. And if nobody's got any other questions, I'll finish up. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.